Hello and welcome to another episode of Whatever's Cool, the show where we talk about anything and everything that is cool in the world today. I'm Daniel Crow, and with me is Tim. How we going, brother?
Very good, thank you. Very good. Feeling very excited about this episode.
That's good. You're not going to ask me that there's no sort of gag at the start?
I actually was going to ask you about that. I was thinking there is something prepared, and I'm bracing for it. So I'm guessing now that you've asked me about it, you're going to tell me what you'd prepared.
Yeah, this is what I prepared. I am incredibly tired because finally I'm back at work, doing full days. It's fantastic. I didn't have time to actually write a joke, and I didn't think I could be funny tonight, so yeah.
That means to say that you're funny other nights?
Dickweed. Anyway.
I can't see you. I haven't actually put the camera back on. The silence was quite deafening, I have to say.
Well, today we are talking about 1997's Bloodmoon. Now, Tim, can you please just give a small story of how did you come to this little nugget of a movie and why you bothered the living shit out of me to watch it on the day you found it?
That's fair. Look, I've been a B-grade movie fan for I don't know how long, probably since my mid-teens, and especially martial arts movies. And when I read about this one via Impact magazine, I thought, you know what, I really need to track this one down. And I could never find it. And it's at the point now where you can barely find it on DVD or even secondhand sales these days. So yeah, what was I supposed to do? Go to YouTube, see if I could find anything on it, and lo and behold, the whole movie's there. It's that bad that they've uploaded the full version of the movie to YouTube, but bless them, because I managed to watch this for free.
Link is in description for this one, so if you guys want to check it out, it's right there. Oh boy.
Should we give everyone a rundown on the story of this?
Oh, why not? I mean,
absolute classic, this banger of a film.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, courtesy of Google. An expert on serial killers comes out of retirement to find the masked murderer of several star athletes.
It actually says mask?
Yeah, it does say masked murderer. Well, which is true. If you think about it.
Because not to cut right in, because I know we shouldn't do this, but I thought because it's Google and because people like to mess with entries and all that stuff, I would have thought someone would have put in there Tuxedo Mask from Sailor Moon was the guy who started all this mess in this movie, but no one did it. Bugger. It's a missed opportunity, guys. I mean, all those people who like to change things on the internet, please do that, just for my sake.
Yeah, it is. I think you're right. I think it is a missed opportunity. You could liken him a bit to Tuxedo Mask, although this guy's a bit more. Well, he attempts to be diabolical. I wouldn't say that he exactly captures that particular behavior. Like he's very over the top, and a lot of this movie is very over the top. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, that's an understatement. Such an understatement.
Okay, well, the movie stars Gary Daniels. So Gary Daniels is I'm going to say he's a pretty popular B-grade movie star. And he's appeared in quite a few pictures. You got to watch him recently in the Fist of the North Star live-action film.
That's right. And I had a good laugh at that as well.
Which I think we're going to cover in another episode.
That's right.
The only movies that I'd seen him in prior to this was City Hunter, where he got to play the live-action version of Ken Masters for the first time.
Oh, I forgot about that. He was in that. And he was funny. He was funny in that.
It was pretty awesome. Yeah, so that's where he got a bit of his background from. So he was doing Hong Kong action films before he started making it in America, I guess, and started moving into more of the direct-to-video market. And the villain is played by Darren Shalavi, who is probably from one of your favorite movies, Ip Man Part 2.
Yep. He was a great man, and he's sadly no longer with us, is he?
No, he passed away. He did.
Yeah.
Which was really sad because he's got a pretty solid resume in terms of action choreography, stunts. You know, he was also in quite a few direct-to-video films. I actually had only seen him in 2 movies before this, so it was Ip Man 2, which I absolutely hated because it's basically Rocky 4 at that. But I'd seen him in Tai Chi 2, so he was in a Wu Jing film from Hong Kong, and that was actually a pretty good film, and he just plays this jacked as all hell final villain. You know, like he even has to like rip off the top just to show how jacked he is.
Oh, he was completely jacked in Ip Man. You know?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Look, very physically imposing, and look, I think the 2 of them, well, basically I think they acquit themselves well in this. Would you agree?
Yeah.
To an extent.
Well, let's forget the acting per se for a second. The action as well. I mean, sometimes the choreography could be a bit corny, as you could be for a '90s action movie. But the skills that they bring to the table were just fantastic, and it's just a shame that the acting is terrible. Especially his. I mean, like, come on, man.
Well, even the way it opens, it is so over the top. Like, it is beyond anything that I'd seen. So you get this opening scene which takes place in a gym, and there's a champion training there in just sparring with people, and then yes, your favorite Darren Shalavi, he shows up as Tuxedo Mask. He kind of looks like this really low budget Zorro.
He really does. All he needed was the hat and the blade, and that's it. But the guy who is fighting though looks exactly like Eddie from Tekken, and I was just like waiting for him to do some, was it parkour or what's the Jamaican fighting style? I've forgotten what it's called now.
Capoeira, you mean?
Capoeira, yeah.
Yeah. Capoeira.
And I'm just like, I'm just waiting for the spin kicks, and I'm like, oh, he's not doing it. Oh.
Yeah, that guy that he fights at the very beginning, so he was in Mortal Kombat.
Oh, he was the dude that, I think he was the second dude to get his soul taken from Shao Kahn?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, it was pretty... Shang Tsung. Same, I guess, in your case.
Oh, sorry, Shang Tsung, sorry. I don't watch Mortal Kombat that often, so...
But, as soon as Darren Shalavi shows up, like, the line delivery is just way up there from the get-go. He says something like about challenging the champ. He's like, oh, no time like the present. Or, you scared? Did you notice there's blood on the moon tonight?
In that tone of voice, sir?
I feel like I'm doing a really bad impression. I probably come across...
Trust me, you're not. You're like pretty spot on what he's doing.
I think I come across more as like a character from South Park by doing that. Hey, Mr. Garrison. But poor line delivery aside, then it sort of gets into the action, and it is... Because this movie was done by Seasonal Films Pictures, which is I think a Hong Kong-based company at the time.
I think so. I think that's right.
The action's just phenomenal. It's got the Hong Kong style, so very very fast, fluid movements. A lot of kicking, very stylized, and that's exactly what 15-year-old me wanted to see in movies back then. Because if it wasn't anything from Hong Kong, it was basically garbage. And if I'd picked this movie up back when I was a teen, I probably would have enjoyed it probably a lot more than how I ended up enjoying it when watching it as a 36-year-old.
I have to agree with you on that one because, I mean, when I was, well, you would have been 16, I would have been 14. At that age, I was in the same sort of thing. I really love Hong Kong cinema too. Not to the extent of you or Trip, but I really loved to watch a lot of Jackie Chan's movies. I even really got into Jet Li stuff at that point. Yeah. And I'm seeing this, when you said that, seeing this would have been really like one of my ideal movies. Like, because I never gave a crap about acting at that age. It probably wasn't until like later on as I got an adult.
It's a good point that you make, actually. Yeah, you definitely, when it's something that you genuinely like, you tend to overlook the weaknesses of the movie. So I probably wouldn't have even cared about the acting in this when I was younger. I would have just thought, oh, this movie's fantastic. You got to see the action, everything about the action, you know? That's all I would have fixated on. Whereas now, like, obviously, you know, you think about the overall impression that you have of the picture. And with this one, well, I think a lot of the unintentional humor is definitely from the line delivery and the acting. The scripting is horrible.
Oh man, the girl gets shoved into the chair. Are you alright, honey? Did it hurt you? I'm like, she just fell into the chair. Like, come on, man.
Is that when his daughter supposedly got pushed aside?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All she did was, it was like a little tap, and she like went flying. I'm like, what? I mean, I'm a big guy, but I didn't even have that amount of power to push somebody that far and that quick into a chair.
You know, it's interesting. I think we're skipping ahead a little bit. So
sorry.
No. We'll have to come back to that. You've just touched on something there. It takes quite a while before Gary Daniels is even introduced to this movie.
It's like, what, 15, 18 minutes? Because the 20-minute mark is when he comes into his house.
Yeah, definitely. So like you've got your intro, your fight scene, and I had to say this because we were texting about this earlier, but I think the editor or the director, they're trying to be stylish with their camera work. Did you love how like that when Darren Shalavi's holding up the dude that he's just beaten, he's holding him up and then he's laughing and what have you, and he's staring up at that blood red moon, but then the camera zooms to the blood red moon, but then it transitions into a close-up shot of a red light for a traffic light. I was like, this is film school 101. Someone's trying to get an A+.
Oh man, because you didn't say the A+ bit, but I did think that when you said that to me. Was it last night you mentioned me?
I think so.
It doesn't matter.
We message a lot.
Yeah, and I was just like, what does he mean by that? And I quickly watched it again this morning and went, oh man.
But then, if you were to watch this, you would think that like the whole thing about the title Bloodmoon, and then if you see the cover for this movie on the DVD, so yeah. Like, you know, you've got the blood moon there. You see Gary Daniels with his shirt ripped off, his arm kind of hairy. You could think that this is a werewolf movie. I don't know, like, and then the fact that they're staring up at the blood red moon. You think that this could be a horror film, but it never factors into it later on.
I remember when you sent me the message to say, hey, Dan, this is a great movie. You watched Gary Daniels in Fist of the North Star, right? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, oh, you gotta watch Bloodmoon. I went, oh, is this another stupid werewolf movie? And you're like, no, just watch it. It's funny. I went, all right, fine. What did I say? Was it 6 minutes in? I just went, what the fuck am I watching? Is this...
It's like, damn it! Like, what? Why is he doing this again?
I thought, because when he said it was going to be funny, is it going to be a comedy? And I'm like, no. He's referring to the whole movie is just something for me to riff. I'm like, sweet, let's do it.
I think I'm so glad that you watched it though, because if anything, like it's very entertaining.
Well, this is the only movie that we have watched, right? Not simultaneously, but I texted you every time something happened. Like when, not the characters, when a certain character comes on, and I went, oh, he looks like duh, and then went to, oh man, that girl's hot, and then like, there's no movie that we've done before that's just sort of given me that sort of, oh, what's it, that little spark to do that. It was just
to spark discussion.
Yeah. I really wish we were in the same room, because I reckon we would have had a good laugh. Just sitting there and just making fun of every little bit of this movie.
Actually, you know what? I think we should probably do that now that you know we can. I think this will definitely be it's a good boys' night movie, essentially.
I reckon Trip would he would lose his mind over it, like how bad the action is, the acting is.
Absolutely. Well, we haven't
Especially with
even,
that laugh.
well, we haven't even gotten to the best part. So after the intro,
Yeah.
we get to the introduction of Eddie Murphy's character. After the film school 101, it transitions from that red light, and then you see this biker heading over to a crime scene, and it's Eddie Murphy.
I didn't send this to you, but I thought this last night. It's like the store bought Eddie Murphy, but it comes with like accessories that you didn't want. So it's a guy that looks like Eddie Murphy with the gap tooth, the voice, and he does magic. Classic.
This guy is amazing. His name's Chuck Jeffries. And,
he's fantastic.
And if you go into his Wikipedia page, it actually says it has been said that he has a resemblance to Eddie Murphy.
I like to think after watching this movie, it's Eddie Murphy that has a resemblance to him.
Dude, definitely.
Because he is so good. He is so good and very entertaining.
You know what? His line delivery in this is awesome. Like, it doesn't matter how bad the lines are in this. He's just incredibly charismatic.
Yeah.
And even though they get him to do some really silly things. I mean, like, when he's first introduced, he parks his bike, takes off the helmet, then he has to, like, step onto a car and do, like, this flip pirouette through the air, and everyone's like, oh, like, impressed. I'm like, why did they do that? And this is the first in, like, a series of needless movements that they insert into this movie. I don't know what it's meant to convey. Maybe it's meant to convey a sense of urgency, but with this, it was just him showing off. And then after that,
yeah,
like you said, the magic part, he starts pulling out magic tricks. Like he sneezes and comes up with a rose with this really shitty sound effect that's meant to come out of, like, some really old slapstick comedy film. I was like, this is... I don't know if I could keep watching, but I was like, it's like a car crash. You're just drawn to it.
See, that's what made me want to keep watching it, because I'm just like, if you do magic and it can make me laugh, I will watch this shit any day of the week.
They give him a line. He goes, so what do we have here? Somebody talk to me. It's like, hang on. Hang on. Aren't you a detective? Shouldn't you be able to tell that there is clearly, like, quite visibly, a dead body on the floor? And then after he's changing the color of his handkerchief, he changes it to white so that he could lay it over the face of the dead guy. I just thought, like, of all the quirks, so, you're going to have quirky characters in movies, but of all the quirks, why did they have to give him magic? And also, he's really into karate. So, like, he's got all the Karate International magazines on his desk at the precinct. I was like, this is a very weird mishmash of things.
I think because they were trying... I could be wrong. I can't remember if I read this or you told me this, but someone said that this is kind of like his character was like a prelude to Chris Tucker's character in Rush Hour. Like, I think it was in the same company or something. I could be wrong. I may have read it, but I remember seeing something like that.
Definitely. I mean, like, look, this movie's got a lot of hallmarks of buddy cop movies. Like, it's always, having a mismatch of personalities is always going to be, the flavor for a cop thriller film. And, well, this one just has the added bonus of it actually being more about the martial arts action, which is just fantastic. And, I have to mention this. I don't know if you heard this, but I had to play it back a couple of times. But so Chuck, or Eddie Murphy, he's at the precinct, and then he gets a call from the chief. Yeah, and then he puts the phone down. Like, you hear this line, "Son of a bitch, you report to me. I shouldn't have to track you down." So then he puts the phone down, and then you hear, like, a slightly distant voice coming from the phone, and it's the same line coming out again. Exactly the same line.
I didn't know that.
I don't know if it was a goof in the audio, like when they're putting the audio track to the movie, but yeah, I was just like, oh my god, this is really funny. But
considering how bad how low the budget was, I'm guessing that's probably it. Or maybe because like it was like maybe a play, but I didn't even notice that. I just thought he was putting it aside, so he's like, oh, this is a bit awkward. I don't want to
pretty much
take that call. Interesting enough, you know who the Chief was?
No.
He was the Riddler in the original Batman TV series.
Oh wow.
Well, the first one, because there was a couple of them. But yeah, because I look at him like he looks awfully familiar, but he doesn't look like the person I normally see him. So when I did the Wikipedia check, yeah, turns out it's him.
Well,
and that's probably where all the budget, the money went for the budget. Probably went to his paycheck.
He should be so lucky to have been part of an extraordinary film like this.
Yeah.
But after the precinct, you get to your perhaps one of many favorites of yours, but you get to see your favorite wrestler.
Yep. Everyone's favorite wrestler, Rob Van Dam.
Yes, the whole effing show.
Mm-hmm. RVD, if you are listening, we love you here at What If It's Cool.
I thought it was a very cringe scene. So
don't say that. If he listens to this, he's gonna hate us. He's gonna send tweets. Oh, actually, no. Keep saying it because then we'll get more exposure. Why not?
Well, it wasn't him per se. It was more the music, and the music in this movie is just really weird. Like, so I guess they're meant to have like a kind of sensual music playing because his girl Roxy, she's got her shirt unbuttoned and her bra's visible. She's like trying to do like this sexy dance to try and lure him away from his pinball game.
Yeah, it wasn't really effective.
And then they get into an argument. And he's like, "Get back here, you bitch!" And then the killer makes his way to his next target, and he says, "It's a marvelous night for a moon dance."
Did you notice whenever they mentioned moon or blood moon, it went dun dun every single time? So it was either moon or blood moon. They said that line, and then the music would do that cue, and then all of a sudden it'd be like, "Oh man, it's that music again."
But then when the killer fights, he he goes to the effort of getting dressed up. He's wearing his outfit. He's got a mask on. But then midway through the fight, he always takes off the mask.
What the fuck is with the mask, man? Like, if you're gonna have a mask, leave the mask on. This is not pro wrestling where halfway through the match if you lose the mask, it becomes, that's it. It really got on my skin when he did that. I was like, come on, leave it on.
It just baffled me the whole time. The whole time, I was like, what is going on here? Like, hang on, this guy is in a disguise, but he's not even, he doesn't even care at that point. I think, look, points will probably be made. People will probably argue, look, he knew that he was going to kill them. He had the fight won, so yeah, he didn't need to hide his identity anymore. But it's not like anyone recognized him anyway.
No, I think I've got an idea. I think I know why he did it. Because he's the world's shittest cosplayer.
Man. You were working on that joke for a while, weren't you?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, god damn. Okay.
I am King Gaff of this cast.
Let's move this one along.
Right.
we move it along because we haven't really spoken much about Gary Daniels because it took ages for them to introduce him. But
yeah,
Gary Daniels is finally introduced. He is spoken of as one of the finest mind hunters in the country. Would you say that is an appropriate label for Gary Daniels in this movie?
Oh man, I didn't realize that was his description. That just I can't. That would imply that he knows the minds of people, and it's clearly he doesn't. Like the way he talks to his not his girlfriend, his daughter, and then his wife. I'm just like, huh?
Well, like he just he's implied to be like this great criminal profiler, and that hardly factors into this at all. But when he does read out lines about how, he's trying to profile, it just feels like it's really, like they really just tried to jam this in there. Similar to how Chuck had the gimmick of, being into magic. Gary Daniels here, like, his gimmick is that he's supposedly a mind hunter, but it just did not make any sense. It didn't build his character well. It would have been better if they just said he was one of the best detectives, you know, and it just so happens that he's also a lethal weapon. You know, he's like a Martin Riggs type character, but not funny.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any funny dialogue for poor Gary. But, you know, I mean, again, it's an action film. You know, he's there to bring the choreography, and, you know, I think he really excels in that. But
yeah,
when they introduce him, he's buried under sand, and he's having a beach day with his daughter, and they play
and that
this.
Was sweet.
Yeah, but they play this really awful instrumental music. Like, it's just.
It's like Sorry to interrupt you, but it's
go.
You remember, you know the really bad Magic Mike music that
yes!
you get? Now, for those that don't know, we're Filipino, and Magic Mike... Oh, jeez, I can't even do it. Oh. Can you just do an explanation of what Magic Mike is? Because, I hate these things.
Magic Mike is not related
Channing
to
Tatum.
the movie. No. But Magic Mike is basically a portable karaoke system that every Filipino family pretty much owns. And upon completion of the song, it will give you a grade, and it will also create the illusion that you're actually good at singing. It is not that difficult to obtain a 100 score on that.
No, it is not.
But yeah, I had the theme music in my head as soon as you mentioned Magic Mike. It is that, look, it's part of our DNA, our cultural DNA. But yeah, like, whenever you get your score, it's like dun 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 dun. Oh god, my parents have one. I think they still have it, and I'm pretty sure that the missus's family has one as well. Either that, or they've got, like, you know, the more upgraded one.
I would just like to publicly apologize to my parents because I broke ours on purpose because I couldn't handle that shit any longer, and I blamed it on the cat.
Wow, that's some rage issues right there. Wow.
Oh, I couldn't stand it. And I had to do something. I was like, how am I going to do this? I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to break it, you know? And then, because it looked like it was pushed over, and then, you know, I accidentally was walking and I stepped on the mic, so it was all legit, and I blamed the cat, and, I felt guilty for so long, and I just had to get it off my chest. Rest in peace, Peter, if you can hear me in cat heaven.
Well, sounds like you got a bit of PTSD about the Magic Mike, not unlike Gary Daniels' character, who has PTSD as well.
Now, here's something about that. Because he has that flashback where he's being tortured and he's tied up, yeah? He's getting cut by the... Is that a sword or is that a knife?
Yeah, well, definitely a bladed weapon, but yeah, like... Okay.
There's no scars on his body. Now, I have cut myself multiple times by accident, and I've got little scars on my hand, but him, nothing. I'm like, I want his genes. That'll be great.
But this is the thing. So he's one of the finest mind hunters, yeah? And he had to retire early because his last case, there was something about his last case. And then, you know, you get a scene of him later on when he's poring over the notes of this case featuring Darren Shalavi's Kung Fu Killer. And he starts having flashbacks to when he was getting tortured. Like, it's really weird. Like, you know, he's all tied up and stuff, and then he's getting cut. But then while he's sitting on his couch, he's getting like these really sort of pained expressions on his face, but it kind of looks like the throes of passion instead. Like, I don't know if, I don't know if they really knew what they were going for, but then afterwards he just, you know, he throws all the papers up in the air and it's like all slow motion. And
maybe his character, he was a masochist, maybe.
Dude, it was like when the paper gets thrown up in the air, I was like, and there's the money shot. As soon as he's, I'm like, this is. I know what they were trying to go for, but it did not look like that. Like he could not communicate that emotion on his face. It was it was as bad as anything that I've seen in Samurai Cop, I think. I mean, at least they didn't have him, like, wearing briefs and singing Happy Birthday or
please.
A nurse asking if he was circumcised, but we'll have to dig into that another time. There is so much more gold in this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
But the entire investigation is just a means to get towards more action sequences, wouldn't you agree?
I'm just going to be flat out honest. I don't even think they even did anything in those investigation scenes. It's just like, okay, we got a clue. We go here. Okay, we can't find the clue. Next fighting scene. Nope, we've got to find a clue. All right, fighting scene. That's all it really was. There was nothing that built towards the story. And I think we've already said that before, but there's literally no storytelling in any of those scenes when they were trying to find something to link the killer together.
Yeah, exactly like what you were saying. Every single scene where there isn't action is really just sort of sped up, really poorly developed, and it's just a means for them to take us towards the next action sequence. And well, really, that's where it starts to pick up more. You get some really fantastic action when you get to the fight scene in the dojo where Darren Shalavi takes on the Japanese samurai or sensei. I've got him marked down as. It's a really good fight scene. It's almost on the level of what you would expect out of a final real fight scene. Yeah,
it was really good, but one of the biggest problems I had with it, and I think I told you this before, when it's near towards the end and he gets sliced up, the next bit when they pan out to when he gets shoved into the next room, there is absolutely no cuts that show that the blade went into his body. It's just more onto his clothes. So there's like little blood spurts, but just I'm like, hang on. He just did a whole, like Luke Skywalker, zun, 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 zun. Sorry, not Luke Skywalker. What's his name? The dude from the new Star Wars, the Kylo Ren sort of style attack, and nothing happened to him.
Yeah, he really dissects him. But I think that's the thing with these. That's probably the charm in a lot of these low budget films. They don't really. There's not really much attention to detail for some of these finer things, and I think especially with blood and what have you, like they probably just gloss that over. But it has a really, and I like excessive finishing moves in kung fu films, but he's basically sliced and diced the master up several times over, and then he jumps onto this countertop and then does a backflip and does the stomp on the chest to kill him. It was really, really cool. And like I said, it comes across as like a final fight in any other kung fu film. But really, like, the movie outdoes itself later on with all the action. The action's just really good. I mean, this was, again, as a teenager, for me, this would have been like the holy grail of US martial arts style films, because it has American actors, and well, in Gary Daniels' case, he's a British actor, but same with Darren Shalavi. Anyway, it's got the best of the East meets West. That's what I would have thought of this as, and it really is just a showcase for Hong Kong style action. And it was so similar to, like, when I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this is quite similar to, like, the No Retreat, No Surrender series, which also had a lot of Hong Kong style action thrown in there. But yeah, when I was researching it, it's great because they were produced by the same company, so that's probably why you get a lot of that same sort of tone in the movie. You get a lot of the very strange sort of dialogue, but really it's all an excuse just to set up more and more action. And that's essentially what you're paying for. Well, in our case, we didn't pay for it. We just watched it on YouTube. But I was thinking, okay, well, like let's see how they amp this up, and they really, I think they outdo themselves later on. What would you say?
Oh, I think it's pretty accurate what you say, but this scene, I think it would have gone right over my head if I watched it back in the day, but now because we got the NBN, really fast, technology. When they cut to the police station and they say, "Oh, there's a kung fu movie on the computer." First and foremost, this is 1997. We're on fucking dial-up. How is it not lagging?
That would have been buffering for months.
I know. No, what got under my skin was the final line. Send me the link after this. I'm like, there were no fucking links at the time for this sort of stuff. Like, how are you meant to save it?
Dude, on 28.8 dial-up, they would not have been able to see very much of that. You know, like they would have seen a picture maybe. Like a pixelated picture. But then even the PCs and stuff, you look at it, I'm like, Christ, this looks like not even Windows 95. I think they were still rocking the Windows 3.1 or something. It just,
I don't know. I wouldn't even have a computer at that point, so I don't even know.
But the villain's he's got a direct link into the police database. But they never explore that. Like, how does this clown have access to it? They don't even say that he's a hacker or anything like that. He just somehow magically has access to it.
Were hackers even a thing back then in 97?
Look, probably they were, but not on the level of what Hollywood makes us believe. But
yeah,
the hacker they do meet later on in the film, he's probably more in line with hackers that we would have seen back then. Pissing in thermoses because he just needs to stay at his computer and what have you. I think Darren Shalavi's character, with this, I was just like, yeah, you have not convinced me that he is also a master hacker.
Yeah, he doesn't come off as being technically survey, especially that. I don't know. Like, when you deliver dialogue like that and you say stupid and goofy stuff like that, you're right. I can't believe that he has any technology at all.
Yeah. And
it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, similar to what they do with Gary Daniels' character, he's got the PTSD, but they never really focus on any of that. It's like they're all afterthoughts, all this stuff that they threw in there.
Maybe they're going to save it for the sequel. Maybe if there was ever going to be a sequel.
I wish if they had a sequel to this. Well, they'd have a hard time of bringing back the killer's character because what happens to him later on, but. The whole, there is a real sense that a lot of this is an afterthought, or it was just hurriedly, scribbled into the notes for the script. It's like, how's this kung fu killer going to know, how to track our investigation? Oh, yeah, he's going to have access to the police database. Oh, yeah.
How did he know they were going to be there? Yeah. Nothing made sense.
Yeah, it was why did Gary Daniels leave the force? Oh, it was his last case. Okay, so what was that scene where he was getting tortured? Oh, no. Let's not unwrap that. Let's just say that he got the bad guy. They're in the sushi bar, and he's like, oh, yeah, I got into the mind of this guy. He was really bad. He'd killed 10 at that point. Yeah, and I just seen too much evil. No mention of him getting tortured with that knife.
That was the least... sounding line you could ever deliver in an action movie. I've seen too much evil. I went, doesn't sound like you did, bro. Okay.
Oh, dude, it is so bad. But yeah, look, it's leading to. Look, I'm gonna say that I like the fight scene in Kelly's apartment. We haven't actually talked about Kelly yet, but Kelly is the adopted daughter
of the samurai.
Yes. So,
which I find very, very disturbing.
What do you mean?
Because she looks like the same age as Gary's character, but I don't know if you had the same feeling that I did. But I feel like there's a sexual tension between them, and she keeps calling him uncle. I'm just like, this is creepy as fuck.
I don't know. I want to know if that was her real voice too, because like, you know, it's like just so.
Yeah, I admit I did feel that way too.
Like, it just seems like it's laced with helium.
But not only that, she doesn't strike as being that, like, that's, I don't know. She's got that vibe where her voice would be more articulate with a face like that.
Yeah,
not the high pitch that you're saying.
I think they were probably saying like, you know, we want you to sound young. Hey, Uncle Ken. Uncle Ken.
Hi, Uncle Ken. I know Kung Fu.
She's legit though in real life. In real life,
she is, and she was pretty good in this one. Has she been in any other movies? Because I would love to see her in anything else, but I don't know her until I see this.
Yeah, I think this was probably her biggest role, especially martial arts focused role. I don't think she really got to do that much, but you know, look, with the way that she carried herself in this, she could have been, well, she should have been the next Cynthia Rothrock.
Yeah.
And I legitimately enjoyed, like, whenever she was doing the fight scenes. And yeah, she was like, you know, look, as I texted you, I thought she was super cute. But, you know, you were sort of a bit more on the agree to disagree there.
Yeah. I don't find her attractive, but I think she's definitely one badass chick.
Yeah, and that entire fight scene, so the killer goes to her apartment and he's hiding in her closet, and then you see the
Hey, he came out of the closet. Hey.
Well, you see his boots right there, and it's like, well, and it's not like there's a lot of clothes sort of like hanging just barely suspended above the floor, so like, you know, the clothes would probably be like maybe about like waist height or so. So, you know, you would be able to see his stupid legs right there. And she doesn't even, like, you know, she doesn't even notice it. But then you get like an almost here's Johnny from The Shining type thing when he pokes his head out through the clothes with his brilliant hair. That scene, the way that it plays out, you have the apartment fight, and that is a freaking awesome fight scene.
I would like to say that rivals the fight in Kill Bill 1 in the kitchen. Like, just like, forget the weapons, but just like choreography-wise, like how perfect it could be for something like that. Yeah, and I really enjoyed it on the same level as I enjoyed that fight.
Yeah, man, definitely. I think the intricate nature of the choreography it really shone through. And, you know, they had like a lot of really great little touches, you know, so, you know, yes, there was some wire work and what have you, but it really just sort of, you know, elevated the action slightly. But, you know, you had things like they were using the environment to their work. You know, there's some like really nasty falls. So the Kelly character gets thrown into a coffee table. Gary Daniels does like, you know, he rebounds off of 2 walls before delivering a kick. You get the, you know, just some amazing looking fly kicks as well. But yeah, even like when Darren Shalavi's killer character, he's holding Kelly, you know, you've got the Chuck character and Dan character, they're trying to like, you know, attack, but then they're holding back. And I just sort of thought that it really communicated the movement of that fight really well. It wasn't just a bunch of, you know, like, well, 3 people just standing around, like, you know, just sort of like doing these, you know, like sort of jazz hands, waving fists around and what have you. It was really well thought out. And yeah, just seeing how it played out, I was like, wow, again, it's very top-notch action. You know, they throw in a whole bunch of stuff here too. You've got the bit where he's, this is at the start of the fight, but Kelly tries to kick Darren in the balls, and he catches her foot in between his knees, which is a very Wing Chun style thing with that. But also, you know, just sort of reminds you of like Pai Mei in Kung Fu films. Like, well, he actually has a technique where he could suck his penis and his balls in, and then he could trap someone's foot in there. And I think that's what they were trying to do with this, but they didn't go the whole hog, obviously. They just decided, we'll just keep it as him like trapping her foot in between his knees. And he's like, inhaling as he did it.
Do you feel in some of that action sequences that there may have been a few things cut out? Because I know we're making fun of that, but I feel like that they cut too early, and there may have been something that was cut out, but because it's hard to get a copy of this on DVD, and I'm guessing that there's no deleted scenes that are available to see. We may not even know if that's true, but I felt that a lot of the time, especially in that scene, that there was a lot of stuff cut out.
I don't think I can agree on that one. I think that for the most part, it's pretty fluid, because one of the things with Hong Kong fights is that they try to shoot with quite a few unbroken takes. And they had quite a few things that they threw in there. But, like you said, perhaps when they were setting up different shots or when they were doing editing, perhaps they took some elements out. But for the most part, I thought it was quite seamless.
Yeah.
I did have to rewatch a couple of times just to know, where they were positioned, especially Gary, because, there's one bit where he's with Kelly, so he'd be, say, in the left side of the shot. And then somehow he manages to do a fly kick over Chuck later on, and that would be from the right side, from the other room. And I had to rewind that. But yeah, no, during the fight scene, he did actually make his way from Kelly towards the other room. And then, yeah, when Chuck gets hit in the face while Darren's, standing in the door frame, that's when Gary jumps in and he does that awesome fly kick. But speaking of the fly kicks, when they move from within the apartment to the hallway, there's this one where he's chasing after Darren. Darren turns back, and then Gary does this fly kick, but he sort of flies past Darren. But then as he's flying past, with his other leg, he throws that back as another kick towards Darren. Mm-hmm. It was just freaking incredible. It's very similar to the sort of stuff that you would see Scott Adkins do. And yeah, Gary, when you see him in photos and stills, he has this amazing jump spin kick where he gets not only incredible height, but because of the flexibility, his legs are just so stretched out, and it just looks incredible whenever he throws that. And yeah, in this as well, I think it's a really prime example of his kicking skills.
The art of kicking is really, it's not really brought out that much anymore. It's more the punching and submission stuff.
You're right.
And this movie, or at least in recent memory, it really showcases it, and it's great. But I don't know. I think because in modern cinema now, I'm so used to seeing the punching and stuff. I kind of miss that a little bit. But it was a '90s movie that's trying to be an '80s movie. So because back most action movies from the '80s and '90s, there were a lot of kicks because it looked like it was more effective. Yeah. And yeah, I think nowadays, because of UFC has sort of really taken more prominence to everything in the world when it comes to martial arts, that a lot of people are now finding new ways to fight, and more stuff has been defunct as being not really effective, and hence why wrestling has changed so much over the last years because of stuff like this. But I think we can still enjoy something like this if they did it rightly. And
yeah, I think that is a perfect point. That is an absolutely perfect point, because as you said, modern moviegoers prefer a lot more of the realism. So, most films that you see now incorporate a lot of MMA, and you really do need to watch this, but if you watch the John Wick trilogy, they do incorporate a lot of MMA into the fights. It's very hard hitting, a lot of submissions, a lot of takedowns, sprawls, what have you. Donnie Yen, for example, in the Flashpoint movie that he did, which is from 2007, even as far back as that.
Yeah.
He was incorporating a lot of MMA into the fight scenes in that, and it just, one, it looks spectacular, but two, it communicates more realism, and this is how fighting has evolved from back then. Back then the Hong Kong style was to feature a lot of flashy kicks. Even in this, they have Darren Shalavi's character at the beginning. He's got this pose where he does he holds his legs up like he's doing a vertical split. I wasn't sure if that was held with a wire or anything, but Ken Lo did something like that in Drunken Master too.
That's right.
And, it just seemed to be the thing. People who could do that, they would have to feature that in a movie. And then, yeah, it would always be about the crispness I didn't say Christmas, crispness of the kicking. You know, kicking technique was highly favored in
JCVD, perfect example. How many times was he doing the splits in every bloody movie? And, like Time Cop, he was in his bloody jocks, and they still get him to do it. Come on.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Funny enough, we have Rob Van Dam in this, and he was known for doing a very certain lift with the splits. So he would do the splits and then lift, I don't know, what was it, 50 kilos, 100 kilos?
Yeah.
And why couldn't they get him to do that? That was around the same point he did that too. So I'm like, why?
He's actually trademarked that, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's the Van Dam lift.
Yeah,
it's called.
Yeah, like it's a legitimate weightlifting move.
Yeah, but I've seen some people try to do it, and they've pulled their groins. I envy this guy to do that. Like, I'll put a link in the description as well, guys, if you want to see it, because it's absolutely amazing to look at.
Yeah.
But don't try it at home. Like, seriously, even if you're that strong, just don't do it.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Anyway, back to the movie. sorry for that little tangent.
I think, look, because there's so much that we can say about this movie, but I think we're gonna have to fast forward past all of the filler bits. Final fight scene.
Yeah, the final fight scene and the ending. Now I'm lost. Sorry.
well, the final fight scene. He says he literally welcomes Gary's character to the fight. He's like, "Thank you for coming, O'Hara. Welcome to hell."
in the game show host voice too, and that's hilarious. Welcome. Thank you for joining.
Like his laugh when he was driving in the car earlier in the movie.
Oh man,
it's meant to be diabolical, but it's just so comical. He's like, it's so good. I want that as my ringtone now.
Oh man.
But this fight scene, again, we're going off on a tangent. This fight scene, trivia-wise, it took 10 days to film.
Bullshit, really?
10 days for them to film it. It's a pretty lengthy fight scene. Gary Daniels was recently interviewed on Scott Adkins' YouTube show, and I think I didn't get to watch all of it, but I'm pretty sure that he said that it was very hot when they were recording. Well, like Darren was wearing like that, like a leather jacket or something like that. So
yeah, it was a dark leather jacket.
Yeah, so it looked very.
And he had leather pants, didn't he? At the time,
I don't. Some chaps.
No, not chest. I think it was leather pants, because when you see one of the high kicks he does, and if you just look very closely, because leather can show a little smoke, especially in heat, and it looked like there was a little bit of smoke on it. So I'm guessing that is leather pants, but I could be wrong.
There's not smoke. So a very common trait was, so they have the to communicate impact. They've got like a chalk, and then you have that powder, and when it hits, you see the smack of smoke. And that's just to communicate that there's power in the move. But with this, it's a real treat to watch. Anyone who has made their way through the entire picture, you were in for a real awesome fight.
Yep.
It has everything that you would possibly want out of, you know, an early 90s or late 80s Hong Kong picture. You know, there's environmental fighting. They're fighting amongst that scaffolding. Takes place in what seems to be like an abandoned factory or abandoned construction area, and you know, the moves that they do, it's awesome. It just, like, the way that they move is probably you can't really state how graceful they look, but yeah, like, they look very graceful with the way they move, and I think it's one of those fight scenes that I could just come back to again and again, because I really like how it plays out.
Yeah, well, you've raved about it all week since we decided to do this. You're like, Dan, I got to really watch that last 20 minutes of this movie.
Well, after watching it again yesterday, I was just like, yeah, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool.
I think it's kind of lost its feel for me, because I am in my mid-30s now, as opposed to being in my teens. So I don't think I get much of a kick of it as much as you do.
Well, I think it'd also be, yeah, like you said, this movie probably had its time, and like it has aged terribly. Like, I don't think that, unless you watched it from back then, I don't think it's gonna have as many new fans now. But I think that if you do give it a chance, like, you'll find a lot to love. And you could probably make a drinking game out of it. I don't know. Like, you can make some kind of game out of this, like, just with a lot of what you see. And it is just, there's so many, I think, unintentionally funny things about this that I would still have to recommend it.
I've got an assignment for you. For your next article for Tumblr, write up a drinking game for this movie.
Nah, I won't do that.
Come on, that'll be fun.
I'm not good with drinking anyway, so it'd be rubbish.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't drink anymore, so yeah, I couldn't do it either.
I like the thing in this whole final fight. So this happens in every movie. But anytime they're at a construction site or a factory, it is always easy to just take a steel rod or a pipe from wherever it might be. They just easily rip it off.
Yeah.
So what are some of our... We've gone into quite a great bit of detail with regards to the action choreography. What are some of our favorite bits with regards to goofs and what have you?
I think my favorite part of the movie that's just a big gaff about it all is when Gary just hits that big bloke and he goes, I'm really sorry, I'll pay for your the cleaning of your clothes, and you're like, oh, here's $20, that should do it. And then the guy goes, and then all his friends are going, they're just laughing at him like, you should take it. I'm like, come on, man, like, over 20, like, you're gonna beat somebody up, and the guy gave you $20. Like, come on. I'd take the $20. Like, if I got, my drink spilled on me, I can just get another drink. $20 is $20. Why not?
I think that, yeah, like, and even in that scene, there's a really, really terrible line where one of the girls eggs that guy on to beat up on Gary Daniels, but she's like, go get him, Jackie Chan, man.
Yeah, I was just like, that line would never work now, and even then, I wouldn't even think it would work back then. I was just like, what? Come on, you're better than that.
Yeah, there is so much cringe, but there was also I think they tried to layer in certain Easter eggs into this movie. So, like, they mentioned Jackie, it's like a shout out to Jackie Chan, but then there was also the bit where they're trying to piece together all of these clues. So it's like, the killer has sent, one of his incredibly elaborate hacker messages to the cops, and he said, yeah, like, good luck to, give my regards to Jim, Gene, and the heroes. And then they're like, oh, who could it be? Who could it be? And then he says something like, oh, Jim Kelly, yeah, Gene Kelly, and then Kelly's heroes. Yeah, Jim Kelly, that guy from Enter the Dragon. I'm like, like, they just keep trying to pepper in all these references.
Now, that was so cringy. I was just like, oh, really? Come on.
Yeah, they're trying to pepper in references to actors from better movies, and I'm just like, look, maybe it's like their ode to or tribute to these people, but yeah, like, I don't like it when people try to shoehorn things like that into a movie. Like, that was really bad. But then
especially a B-grade movie,
but
it's not fun.
Even the line readings are just so bad. I mean, like, there's this bit where, so the killers killed all these masters and the cops, just dumb as always throughout this, they finally figure out that the people that he's killed were from a tournament called the Tournament of Champions, which just so happened to be, coincidentally, a tournament held by Gary Daniels' master, who also was Kelly's adopted father. And it's just like, fuckwits. How could you not figure this out? But then, Chuck asks Gary, it's like, oh, yeah, do you recognize anybody in the photo? So it shows all the people. And he's like, well, most of these guys are staring at steel in drawers in the morgue. And if you look closely, it looks like Kelly rolled her eyes at that particular line reading.
I thought she did roll her eyes. Oh, boy.
And then Chuck ends up saying something else after. He's like, yeah, but, you know, like, we're walking into the valley of the shadow of death here. We're not going to be able to protect you. Oh, man. It was...
Do you reckon a dad wrote this script? Because it's like every bad dad joke you can put under the sun for a movie. Like, oh, I'm cringing as we speak as we say this.
Well, on that, the guy who wrote this, his name is Keith Strandberg. More accurately, it is Keith W. Strandberg. So Keith W. Strandberg, he was actually the writer for all of the No Retreat, No Surrender films, as well as this. And what happened was he used to work in China, and then he met the producer, Mr. Si-yun, and he got a job as a result. He was able to, and then he was asked to write scripts. He wrote all the scripts, and just from that, because he's fluent in Chinese, I was thinking, did he perhaps write this in Mandarin or Cantonese? And did he then translate it back into English? Because the way that the lines are read, it's so leaden. The dialogue is so leaden. So, you know, like there's no subtlety to it whatsoever. So I just think that, yeah, like maybe translation may have played a factor in regards to how bad the lines were. You know, maybe some stuff was lost in translation. I don't know. Like there is certainly a quality to the dialogue that makes it memorable, but only because of how bad it can be.
For an effort for a low budget, straight to video action movie, it's all right. I mean, it could be a lot worse. You know, it could be like one of those ones that are so bad it's terrible, but this is like so bad it's good.
Yeah, I think that it hews closer towards. Look, I would probably put this maybe on the level of No Retreat, No Surrender, like guilty pleasure type movie.
Oh, I put it a bit further up from that. I mean, No Retreat, No Surrender was okay in my book, but I don't hold a high appreciation to that movie. But this one I do, because I get such a laugh out of it, and just an enjoyment out of it that I don't get from No Retreat, No Surrender. So I would put this higher than that. Okay.
So, man, what do you want to do? Are we going to ask the question?
Yeah, why not? I mean, it is a trait for this show. Tim, is it cool?
Yes. I think this is a very cool film. Only, yeah, it. Not everyone's going to rush out to watch it, I don't think. But yeah. You know, like if you do like Hong Kong style films, and if you do like throwback films, because this looks very 80s.
Even though it was made in the 90s.
Even though it was made in 97. If you do like that sort of thing, and you want to see Gary Daniels in... Look, this is, according to the Googling that I've done, it ranks quite highly in his filmography out of all the movies he's done. A lot of his fans name Bloodmoon as either his best or close to his best movie.
Well, it's a shitload better than Fist of the North Star, especially with his acting in this.
Yes.
I can't wait to do that episode.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it now. If it means that we're going to watch it. But look, he clearly adapted so well to doing the Hong Kong style of fight choreography that, you know, it translated so well to this. It was like, you know, it was just a smooth transition for him to move from, you know, Jackie Chan picture to doing something like this.
Yeah, look, it's hard to have that transition because a lot of Hong Kong actors, especially Westerners that do Hong Kong cinema, a good example, Bradley Allen, who is a part of the Jackie Chan stunt team. His work in Hong Kong, particularly the one he's probably more famous for, Gorgeous, was really great. But then you may see him in other movies where he may have a cameo and he has maybe a few lines and it's not so great. not many people can have that transition, and I think Gary did an okay job here. But it's a very hard mold to break, because you got to remember that the acting and the way things are in Hong Kong cinema as opposed to Western cinema are completely different things, and always will be. I don't think we're ever going to find a balance where they can do both. I mean, it took Jackie Chan 20 years to really get there.
3 attempts, I think.
Yeah, no, but his format now, like, he can do both and be very successful in either one.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, it is what it is for him.
Yeah, I think that a lot of this has some ideas that weren't really well developed. So, it could have made for a really cool study if you had, Ken's character having more of the PTSD, or, if they had a more interesting villain, like building out his backstory more rather than him just being a martial artist who wants to kill everybody and somehow has mad hacker skills.
Have a better fucking ending.
and the quirkiness of Chuck's character, like if they played around with that a bit more, it could have made for something exciting. Like I've marked it down here, but him having the magic gimmick, they should have worked that into his fight scenes. It would have been so cool.
Oh, that would have been badass. So, all right, I'm gonna shoot you, and here's a card trick. Is this your card? No, bang.
Well, I don't know if you've seen Now You See Me and Now You See Me Too, but they make use of a lot of the magic props in that, and it looked cool. And they could have done that in this. So like there's a lot of undercooked sort of elements to this movie, but action wise, it is freaking spectacular. And sadly, in the hands of perhaps this movie, it probably would have been, and Tripp has made this point before, but this movie, if they had recast it with Hong Kong actors and it was actually shot in Hong Kong, it would have just been your standard action film over there, and it would have been fun.
Yes, I believe that. I 100% agree with that.
It's an unfortunate sign that, the weakness of the script, while, entertaining to us, it really didn't sell these actors very well. Like, they had to sell the physicality of the role instead. And I think that's what the shame is.
And it's a shame for me to say this, but for me, the movie isn't cool.
Okay.
But, no, because, like, when I give my cool thing, it's like if I can share it with everybody. This is something... It is a guilty pleasure. So I'm not saying it's a bad movie, not by all means, but it's not a cool movie. So this is a movie that I would watch with you guys. Maybe some members of my family. I know my girlfriend probably wouldn't want to watch this with me, but yeah, it's just not that cool though.
They did something similar to this in Hong Kong many years later. So the director of this, he actually has a cameo role in Donnie Yen's film Kung Fu Jungle. And Kung Fu Jungle features a martial artist with an inferiority complex killing various masters around Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. And Donnie Yen is the man that has to stop him. So, is
that the one where they have the fight in the jungle and they do a Kimura or something in the middle of that fight scene?
I'm not really sure because it's been a while since I've watched it, but there's a fight scene where Donnie Yen's in prison and he beats the crap out of 20 different people. But the final fight scene takes place on a freeway, and the two of them have probably one of the more technical looking, at least as far as different martial arts style, different kung fu styles thrown in to it. So it looks it's very detailed, but yeah. Elements from Bloodmoon, I don't know, maybe they made their way into elements of this Kung Fu Jungle movie many years later.
We'll have to have a look at that in the future, and yeah, I know Tripp would definitely want to do that, and yeah, we'll have to get him on that.
Alright.
Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, Castbox, and Stitcher. And while you're there, leave us a review. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and enable those notifications. If you can't wait for our next episode, why not check out our Tumblr page? Find us at What If It's Called Podcast. Make sure to find us on Facebook at What If It's Called Podcast. Tweet us at What If It's Cool. and find us on Instagram at What If It's Called Podcast. Keep that support coming. And until next time, folks, we'll catch you on the next cast.